What's up? Welcome back to another episode of Get Paid for Your Pad. I am here with Eric Mutter, my co-host today, and we are going to talk about the STR Legends Mastermind event that happened over the weekend in Mexico. We'll
Yes,
share
sir.
all the fun stuff, the takeaways, what we learned. So let's dive in. We got a lot to share. Eric, good.
Dude,
Is it good to be back, or you miss Mexico?
man, I freaking love San Diego. I love traveling, but man, I love San Diego. I love coming home to this place. I don't want to take away from the amazing time that we had in Mexico, but as you know, in which I'm sure we'll update everybody, the last couple of days being down there was a little rough for me. So being back in San Diego, and I just love my routines and my things. And I got home, I jumped in the cold plunge, I meditated, I ate some clean, healthy food. So yeah, I appreciate being back home. But I know in a few weeks I'm going to be itching to travel again. So feels good to be home. But man, that I don't know about you, man, but that was probably one of the greatest events I've personally ever attended. Forget the fact that we ran it ourselves, but that was by far one of the best events I've ever been to. So I'm excited to update everybody on what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, it was quite a big change from 2019 in Puerto Rico when you and I are trying
Yeah.
to manage this all together. Now we have a team with an amazing event manager who supported us. So just we were able to really take this event to the next level. And I think you're right. Like when you shared on our team meeting today, I thought you were going to share like, oh, this is the best event that we ever organized. And then you said the best event I've actually ever been to,
Yeah.
which made me think of other masterminds and events that I've been to. And I think you're right. Like I think, we can give ourselves a little pat on the shoulder or pat on the back for for putting up a pretty cool event. So
Yeah, dude. I was thinking about that on the plane ride home. I was just thinking of like all the different events I've been to since I was a kid. Like my mom started taking me to different like big events when she saw that I started reading different books and like I was interested in real estate and business. I was probably like 15 years old. She started taking me to like different big conference events and things like that. And like we would sit in the nosebleeds and the whole thing, watching people speak on stage. I was thinking all the way back to there to when I moved to San Diego and I was just investing so heavy into masterminds and different events and coaches and all this stuff. I've been to some really awesome experiences and done some really awesome masterminds, like even on a yacht here in San Diego. And even so, like it wasn't to the level the experience wasn't to the level of what we experienced in Mexico this past weekend. So yeah, it was unbelievable, man. So let's dive into it. Why don't we give everybody some updates on the event, give them a recap of the event.
yeah, and first of all, for if you're listening to this, and you don't know what the STR Legends Mastermind is, it's a mastermind for high level short-term rental operators and entrepreneurs, investors, people who are buying hotels. Eric and I started this mastermind in 2019. That's how we
Yeah.
started working together. We had an event, a live event in Puerto Rico, one in Colombia right before COVID. Then COVID hit, and we took the mastermind online. So we had like monthly or even weekly at some point Zoom meetings with all of our mastermind members. But now that COVID is kind of behind us, we were able to meet in person again. So we came down to Mexico on Thursday. Last week on Thursday, we had about 20 people there. 20 people attended the event, and then we had our team members there as well. We rented out a pretty cool resort with multiple pools, multiple rooftops. And yeah, we spent 4 days together, really masterminding and understanding like each other's challenges, helping each other solve problems, and connecting with everybody, understanding like what's everyone focused on the industry.
Yep.
So that's in a nutshell what went down.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, to kind of give a glimpse of like the power that was in that room this week. It was just truly unbelievable. We had two students that actually went through the Legends X program or 90-day program who graduated and scaled their business so aggressively through that 90-day program that they actually became legends, which was really cool. And those, both of those companies are just on fire with what they're doing. But we had brand new legends in there that are just now running like 40, 50 units. all the way up to one of the biggest companies in the world, with Steve Schwab from Costco, who runs over, I think he said over 5,000 units now, close to 6,000 units, multiple tech companies, built and sold one of the biggest PMS companies in our industry. So, the scale of individual in that room, as you mentioned, like hotel investors, we had hospitality investors, we had the property manager that was running at scale. So, the level of knowledge was unbelievable. I felt like a student for most of the time there, right? Of just learning from these guys and gals. So, the power of the room was truly unbelievable. And then cultivating the experience of being in Mexico, in this resort, rented out a full resort. So we had everything to ourselves, the staff, the chefs, the whole thing. So, man, it was unbelievable. It was a world-class experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to add a little bit in terms of the experience. So we had an entire resort on a hill on the coast side of Mexico. So we had like multiple pools with multiple villas, multiple smaller units, and the big villas all had pools, literally like infinity pools overlooking the ocean, which was incredible. So we were able to, one day we have some drinks in this pool, another day we do in a different pool. The villas all had rooftops as well. So and what's also really added to the event was we hired an events company to come into the resort and set up dinners for us. We had private chefs. We had different parties going on at night. So the experience was just completely upgraded from what we did in the past.
Yeah, and we did have our media guy with us. So we're going to be releasing, maybe this is a good time to announce this. We're going to be relaunching the Overnight Success YouTube channel. And one thing that I think you and I learned over the last, year or so is like, we are not social media people. Like we like long form content that impacts and stuff that people can find and be relevant and use years from now, right? So the podcast and our blogs and email. So YouTube really aligns with that as well. So we've been investing pretty heavily into relaunching that channel. So we're going to be launching a couple of different series on that channel, where we're going to just kind of we have a whole series that we're creating around short-term rentals at scale and how to like the mindset of a leader who runs these companies. So we're going to be releasing a lot of that content from Mexico in the next few weeks. Hopefully we can start getting it out in a few weeks. So we'll update everybody on that. So you'll be able to see who was down there, the topics we talked about, the experience, the parade, the local parade, all the crickets that we were eating and like all the tequila we were drinking and all that stuff. So you guys will be able to get to see the experience of that. And then also on that page, we're going to be releasing what's going to be, I think we're going to call it Overnight Success Nuggets, where we're going to be releasing small little educational clips of, either from this podcast or from the event, things like that someone could watch for a couple of minutes, get an actionable educational tool and put it to work. So so I guess check out our Instagram if you like, but we're not really sharing too much on there. We might, but I think the number one place in the coming weeks is going to be our Overnight Success YouTube page. So I'm sure we can link that up in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, man. Well, let's dive into some learning lessons. You and I both learned a lot. We have a long list of things.
It's unbelievable, dude.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. But yeah, why don't you kick it off? What was your number one takeaway?
Yeah. So again, I mean, I was going through this. On the plane back to San Diego, just kind of journaling on the experience and my takeaways and thoughts and going through all my notes and all of that. And, I came up with 6 main takeaways. I don't know if we'll get through all 6 of these. These are not in order as far as like, this is the number one takeaway or whatever, but this is kind of what everything I was looking at, all the notes, all the new actions that we're going to be taking in Overnight Success and Free Wild. These are this is what it sums out to be. And I'll start with this one. And this is something that we already know, but this was a major reminder, is always surround yourself with greatness. right? And I wrote that down. I'm like, this is like the biggest takeaway from this event is I consistently remind myself to be looking at the people that surround me, right? Like that famous quote, you are the total sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? And I remember on the final dinner and the fiesta night, which I can't wait to share the videos of all that. That was crazy. The last night I was sitting at the table. You were to my left. We had Rohan and Sam to our left. Then we had Harrison. Was it Harrison? Yeah.
Was it Harrison or was it Christian? Can't remember.
Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. Oh man, Harrison. Let's go with Harrison. And we had Steve Schwab, and all of us are there, finishing our dinner, eating dinner together, and we are talking about some major. The level of conversation was just truly incredible. We were talking, like I had one individual to my right that I'm able to talk to of like, hey man, what is the mindset every single day of running a team? I think he has 1,000 people on his team, somewhere around there. And he runs nearly 6,000 units, and he has multiple tech companies and tech solutions going. He sold one tech company. And I'm like, hey man, like what is the mindset every single day for you to wake up and run this? Like, what does that feel like? What do you think? What are your routines? What are you scared of? And he's literally just opening up to me and telling me all the things. He's telling me all the numbers. He's telling me, everything that he's going through. And as he's telling me, I'm so inspired because I'm like, I'm going to play at this level one day, right? Because we're already doing this work. But then I'm also like tapping in. I'm like, it's solidifying some of the work that we're doing. And then it's recognizing like, oh, I'm being a little lazy over here. I got to step it up. Right. And then Rohan and Sam are just like walking us through our free wild business model. And I'm like, oh, we can implement our model a lot faster than what we think and grow our wealth through this process. Right. So this has nothing to do with short-term rentals. This comes down to who are you surrounding yourself with? And it's something that I'm just constantly have to remind myself, but conscious of, like when I'm going to dinner with friends or new people or whatever it is, I'm being conscious of who I'm sitting next to so I can cultivate a conversation that's going to bring them value and bring me value. Right. And it's like, man, this is one of the biggest shortcuts that you can do to surround yourself with high level, powerful people is bringing them value in mastermind settings like this. But then also I'm asking myself, what masterminds do I need to invest into to surround myself with more powerful people, to learn from them, to grow these companies as a leader and understand how to raise money, understand how to grow teams and like all these things. So I just wanted to kick this podcast off with like the number one takeaway is always surround yourself with greatness and always remember that quote, you are the total sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Because if you're a CEO trying to grow a company or you're just a human being trying to be a better human being, you got to surround yourself with people that are doing incredible things in this world and value the same things that you value of growth and greatness and wealth and all the things. So truly inspired by that, truly inspired by the people that we got to spend time with down there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you chose that one because this is something that everybody who's listening right now can put into action, right? It's like, who do you currently spend the most time with, right? And it's not to say that like, I don't want to be in a mindset of like looking around me and just looking at people and saying like, oh, if you don't have any value to bring to me, I don't want to hang out with you. Right. That's not what this is about. This is about like just being mindful of the fact that through osmosis, it's almost like whatever other people are doing around you, like kind of rubs off on you. Right. So it's not about right or wrong. It's about like choosing who do you want to be and then surround yourself with people who live that life that you want to live.
Right. Yeah. And I'll say one more thing on this and then we can move on to the second point of, dude, you're 100% right, man. Like you have to be aware. The reason why I bring this up is like, there's so much I want to learn. I'm so inspired by, we're talking to Rohan and Sam and they're like, the size of deals that they're building for their short-term rental business is freaking mind-blowing. And the level of confidence that they have in putting together multi-million-dollar hotel deals and saying to me, hey man, there is absolutely no difference of doing a deal this size. I don't know if they want us to release all this, so like their numbers and all that. There's no difference of doing a deal this size of multi-millions of dollars versus doing a deal of $500,000 or $1 million, right? It's all the same at the end of the day. You just, and like the level of confidence, I was like, oh man, I've been thinking so freaking small. So that just unlocks something for me, right? So when I say surround yourself with greatness, is just consistently try to surround yourself with people where you bring them value and they bring you value, but don't make it that could be a trap. I know entrepreneurs that go out and they're constantly trying to find and surround themselves with people to where it's not authentic connections, right? It's like, what can they do for me? How can they make me better? And it gets stuck in this spot where you're not actually doing it in an authentic space to really connect with another human being. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up, man. That's a really important feature to this, and really important point to remember to that. So
yeah,
but that's my number, that's one of my takeaways. What about you? What are some takeaways or lesson that you got from the mastermind?
Yeah, like kind of this kind of flows into what you were saying, right? Because I was in that conversation that we were having at that table. One of the topics that we were talking about as well was some of the deals that Rowan and Sam are working on, and we were talking about hotels and how most hotels have such an old school, there's such an old school experience. And what it made me realize is that there's so much innovation that we can create in our industry, right? And what I'm noticing is that, like, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, I think there was a lot of people who looked at the vacation rental industry and they just started their businesses. You grow like an Airbnb business up to like whatever amount of listings, and then the next step is you start looking at the people that are kind of old school in vacation rentals. You start recognizing that there's a lot of innovation there, right? And there has been a lot of innovation when it comes to the technology side, the customer experience. Like, I think over the last 10 years, like it's really up leveled. And now a lot of people start looking at the hotels, right? Because you realize, like, hey, there's a big overlap between short-term rentals and hotels. So if we can create an amazing experience and level up the experience on the tech side and everything in the short-term rentals, then why wouldn't we be able to do that in the hotel space too, right? And the conversation I was having with Rowan, we were realizing that 95% of the hotels that you walk into today, the experience is pretty much the same as 100 years ago.
Yep.
There's a reception with a person. You walk in, the first thing you have to do is stand in line. Then you have to fill out a form, usually, even though they already have your information, right? And in your room, like, you still have like a telephone that's wired into the wall. Like, I mean, young people probably don't even know how to use those things. You know what I mean? Like, it's not much has changed. So it just really inspired me with what we are doing. It just showed to me, like, hey, there's so much innovation, not just in the short-term rental space, but in the entire hospitality industry, that where we can really make a difference if we are able to to create that vision for ourselves and execute on it.
I love that, man. I love that takeaway. Yeah, that's essentially what what I've been stating is, like, I think a huge opportunity right now is short-term rental experts buying and taking over old vacation rental communities or hotels and converting them to modern short-term rental experiences. Right. And it's like, out of this mastermind, we got a couple of deals that we're looking at right now, right, to acquire a cabin community and a hotel. And that's exact, like, these properties, they run great, but they've been running, from the same family's been running it for a very long time. The websites are so out of date. you know, like everything just like it's so old school that just by a modern touch and marketing to a new type of traveler, the value of that experience will shoot through the roof. And that's where you can find the value adds. If you're a real estate investor, that's where you can find the forced appreciation, which is really nice, and the appreciation of the property. And if you're an operator, that's where you can find the major increase in cash flow. So, yeah, I love that, man. That's solid.
Yeah. All right, your turn. Next takeaway.
Oh, next takeaway. Let's see here. All right, so this kind of leads off of that as well. What I wrote down is control the outcome. Okay, so control the outcome. What I mean by that is this is specifically towards building your business and the type of assets that you're going after, right? So you guys got to remember, like when we're in this room with these legends, we're talking about scale. We're talking about wealth creation. When we kicked off the mastermind, what I said to the members is like, this mastermind is all about wealth creation. What can we do to leverage our businesses and our knowledge and resources to create generational wealth between what we're doing now? Previous masterminds and what we do in Legends X is all about like getting started, like starting and growing. Starting and growing, where this is all about wealth creation. And one thing that I recognize for the wealthiest people in that room that are doing the biggest deals, and you know, we have one member that is selling a huge portfolio of single family homes and his short-term rental business along with that, and we're debating how to value it. We're trying to figure out how to value it. And one thing that we recognize through this is that the biggest operators, the wealthiest people, they go and invest in the markets that they can control, right? So versus if you want to scale a business, if that's numbers or units, whatever that is, you want to go into markets and invest in properties that you can control the outcome versus in markets that make cash flow might be nice now, but one day they might pass some short-term rental laws that can put you out of business, right? So for example, San Diego. If you invested in San Diego and all these investors that converted these buildings for short-term rentals and invested all this money, the city council just passed a law where only, I think it's 1% of the city housing stock could be short-term rentals, right? So now all of these short-term rentals are, you know, there's lawsuits and they're fighting and they're doing all this thing. But now you're in a market where you have no control of your asset, right? Versus some of the wealthiest people in that room, they're controlling the outcome. They're either buying properties that have hospitality licenses in place, so hotel licenses, things like that, or they're buying in markets where they know there's solid short-term rental regulations in place currently, right? That they know that they can operate within that, okay? It gives them the control to understand what to invest into. And then it also helps you to understand where you can scale and how you can scale for the long haul, right? So that completely changed. I mean, I know we all know this stuff, but there's still a lot of people that, and even myself, like just thinking like, oh, well, we'll just take these properties on until maybe one day they change the laws or whatever, right? But it's like, no, if you want to grow a real company, you want to be a sustainable company, growing real wealth, control the freaking outcome, invest in communities that are willing to invest into you, that want you and your business in place. We've been speaking about this for a long time, but that made me recognize like, oh, okay, we got to shift our model here. And the properties that we're buying moving forward for FreeWild will have hospitality licenses in place or in communities that support us, right? Mm-hmm. So that was a huge takeaway. Control the outcome of your business. Control the outcome.
Yeah, it's a really good one, because I'm pretty sure like 3 to 5 years ago, I'm pretty sure most people were looking at it completely the other way around. Right, we were avoiding the markets where there was regulations. Everyone was looking at like, hey, where are these places where there's no regulations, so we can like grow and it's like easy. But you're right. And we had a member in the mastermind actually who's running into that challenge, right?
Yeah.
Who's in a market where there's no everybody can just come in there and start doing Airbnb or, you know, other sort of rental platforms. And what happens then is like there's so much supply at some point that it start the ADR is going to go down. And then the investment you made a couple of years ago looked really good a couple of years ago, but now, it could be very different. So I think that's I think that's a solid one.
And it's hard to scale, right? So like, it's now that that person has the ability to scale their business, and they did scale their business to a huge number of assets, cash flow and equity in their properties. It's hard for them to find a buyer for it because of the long-term concern of, will this market be oversaturated, or will one day they pass a law that would put us out of business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So control the outcome. We have the ability to kind of invest in multiple different markets. So just make sure you're investing in communities that invest into you. And by the way, we are wearing new shirts. So if you're watching the visuals, we'll talk about this at the end of the video. But for everyone who's listening, our new shirts say short-term rentals are not a crime, which we're going to announce to the public one, and everyone will have access to buy these and all the other things. But that played a lot into this control your outcome takeaway.
Yeah.
Man. What about you?
Yeah. Well, since you're talking about skill, obviously we learned a lot from having, Steve in the room. And I thought that was the biggest takeaway, or one of the biggest takeaways I had from kind of listening to him, is that most hosts or most students that we talk to, when we're talking about skill, they're always thinking of like more units.
Yeah.
How do I get more units? Give me the secret marketing strategy, right? What's that perfect outreach email that I can send so that, the answer is going to be, yes, I'll let you rent out my property. When you listen to Steve, he doesn't talk about any of that stuff, right? He talks about the team is one thing, right? He talks about like how you have to hire like the best people for your business. And if they're not performing at your standards, like you got to find somebody else. And number two is the detail that goes into the operations, right? Of his business. Like that really like made me think it's not as sexy as it might sound. Like, you think of scaling as like, oh, I've got this incredible like marketing trick, this genius strategy that I came up with. It's more about like just really dialing your systems and your operations and making sure that they're scalable, that everything you can do with managing 10 units can you still do that when you're managing 50 units, right? Or how do you really dial in those operations? And I'll share one more like tactical example of this, right, just so that we have something as well where people can listen to it and implement it in the business right away. So one of the operational efficiencies that he was talking a lot about, operational efficiencies, is the idea to help your guests self-resolve small issues.
Yeah,
that's a really smart concept, and it's interesting because that's something that you are kind of forced to do it when you're really scaling. But at a smaller level, like you don't have to yet, right? So what I mean by self-resolving is, for example, light bulbs, batteries for remote controls. Like if a guest messages you and says like, hey, this lamp, stopped working, you have two options. You could either send a maintenance person to go and fix that, or you could say, hey, I have a little box. We have a little box in the unit. Here's a video on how to do it. You could either do it yourself if you want, or we can send somebody. And what Steve was talking about, like most guests actually prefer to do it themselves, because the experience of having to wait for somebody, then giving that person access to the property, communicating with that person, that's maybe not the experience that most people are waiting for when they're on holiday, when they're trying to relax. And I think it's really powerful. And honestly, I've never thought about it. I shared it in an email with our audience, and a lot of people replied to the email and said, yeah, I've been doing that for years. Like guests much prefer that, and I've never had anybody, I've never had like people react negatively to that. So I thought that was a really interesting takeaway.
Yeah, dude. That was one of my takeaways too, is scale doesn't mean more numbers. right? I'm sorry, scale doesn't mean more units. So before Steve got up to speak in front of the group, so kind of some context here, we had what was called group discussions, where we had one person who specialized in something lead a open conversation about a certain topic, right? So we had Steve Schwab from Costco, who runs, thousands of units around the world, lead a 90-minute conversation on short-term rental scale. And leading up to the conversation, he pulled me aside and he's like, hey man, like I got a chance to connect with everybody and everyone's at different levels. And I'm really concerned that, the group thinks that scale means just more short-term rental listings. And he's like, do I have your permission to, or he didn't ask for permission. He asked for my blessing to say like, hey, do you mind if I just kind of shape this and really understand what scale means to everybody? I'm like, yeah, 100%, man. Like, let's figure this out. Let's help them understand how to grow their companies at the end of the day. So we led the question to the whole group. What does scale mean to you? And I'm sitting in the back and I'm waiting for everyone to say like, scale means 1,000 units. Scale means 500 units, right? Not one person in the room mentioned anything about units. Right. And I was like, and Steve, like, as people are responding, Steve's looking at me with a smile. He's like, and both of us like, oh my God, we can't believe that everyone's on the same page about this. The common responses, everything had to do with time, generational income, and people. Right. So yes, systems and all of that on how they can get their time back and how to get their team time back, all of that. Right. So like the Steve's box on helping people host solve their own guests solve their own problem before reaching out, which essentially what that means is it saves time to their customer service. It saves time for their maintenance. It saves time for any interruptions to the guests, like all the things. Right. So he's saving so much time, and across the board of 5,000 units, that adds up dramatically, right? But every single person in that room, not one person mentioned units. Every single person mentioned how they want to control their time in their business and what that means to them, and control the time of their team members and all of that. Two is the quality of people that they work with and they serve, right? It was all about a lot of people were about like, I want to develop. Scale means bringing high quality people into our organization where this organization impacts their lives for the better, right? And they went into like how it can impact sending their employees' kids to college and having people retire, right? Like Steve was talking about how he had somebody in his team that's been working with him for like 20 years and she's at an age where she just can't clean anymore. So he just keeps her on the team to really just kind of bring energy to the team, because he's like, this person is an incredible team member and she's been with me for a long time. So we had, can't let her go. Like, we want to support her. Like, this is what scale means, that I have the ability to do that for this person. Right. And I thought that was incredible, man. Like, I thought it was beautiful, because when we talk to Legends X students, we ask that question, what do you want to do with your business? I want to get to 100 units. Well, why 100 units? Well, 100 units means that I can make more money. I don't know. I just want 100 units. Oh, okay. Well, you ask the Legends, hey, what does scale mean to you? Scale means to me ultimate income and time freedom for me and my team. It means that my community is impacted in a positive way because we're able to bring people from all around the world into our community, spending money and spreading what we do around the world, right? Like, there's a different feel to it. But every single one also has the mind, and what that means is millions of dollars, right? So, you strip that away as well. Like, what the physical result of that means is millions of dollars for our members, right? Our legends. That means they want to make millions and millions and millions of dollars, because it gives them the ability to hire more people, expand their vision, have more impact, all of that. So that freaking blew my mind, man. And and once you disconnect scale and growth from just more short-term rental listings, and you put it into something that truly has an impact and it inspires you, man, like I really now understand what Rohan is saying of like, hey man, if you want to do I'm making up these numbers. If you want to do a $50 million deal, it's really no different than doing a $5 million deal, right? He's like, it's all the same things, just different, more ones and zeros involved, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I get it. So I think that's a major takeaway of working with it. And this goes to my first thing of always surround yourself with greatness. You surround yourself with people who think this way and they're inspired by taking action in a different way other than just getting units. It inspires you to take more action and bigger action, right?
Sure. Yeah, thinking big, right? Have you ever heard of the concept of like a see-through ceiling, like a glass ceiling?
Yep.
You know, the idea that like a lot of us live in our own reality, and sometimes we're the only ones that are stopping us from leveling up, right? So it's really important to have those type of people in your life that are just completely playing at a different level, to see that it's possible, because it's possible for one person, then it's possible for you. You know, like I love what Steve Jobs once said. So many cool things that he said, but one thing he said is he, as he was leveling up in his business, at some point he realized, when you look at people that have achieved like incredible things, you got to realize that they're actually no smarter than you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you can achieve incredible things as well. Because we always look at those people and think like, oh, they're so smart, or, you know, it makes us think that we can't do that. So I think that's a big one.
100%, man. 100%. I love that as well. How much time do we have?
Well, not that much. So if you want to
right.
share one more quick takeaway, and then we'll talk about some fun stuff that happened at the mastermind.
Oh man, I got 3 more takeaways and they're all freaking powerful. All right, let me see. All right, let me do a quick fire round here. One is I wrote down that leadership is the number one thing that we can, number one skill set that we can develop. It's the most transferable asset as we grow, right? And this is something that you and I discovered in ourselves. It's like we're always trying to figure out like how to run numbers differently, how to what systems to bring in, how to get more listings, and like better sales skills and all these things. But what we recognized is, as we grow our company, the number one skill set that we can invest into that will transfer to any stage of business, if you're running 10 listings or if you're running 10,000 listings, is leadership. Because all business is solving problems and leading people, right? And it's leading our team, it's leading our guests, all of that. And it's transferable. Leadership skills are transferable into our personal lives as well. So that's one thing I had to get that out there, because for me and you, that was super powerful. Maybe we could do a whole podcast on that one day. Number 2 fire round is understand your skill sets. This is what we talk about in Legends X, but what got super clear for me this weekend, and for yourself, is like truly understanding and just getting so in your lane and just focusing on your lane and bringing in people and helping them develop up their skill sets versus you trying to learn everything. Where we came up with this is like, we're like, hey, we got to really develop Free Wild. We got to truly understand how to analyze property anywhere in the country as good as anybody else in the world, right? Like we got to be the best at analyzing numbers and understanding how short-term rental assets and hotels will operate, right? But then also we have to get world-class at raising money and structuring money and developing relationships, all of that. And you and I were looking at each other and you're like, well, numbers come super natural to me and I freaking love numbers. So, Jasper, you're going to run with the numbers. So go do that and develop your skill set there. Money and raising money is all about relationships and people. And like, that's where I thrive. I love that stuff. So let me focus on that. And once I recognized that, it took all the pressure off of me saying like, well, crap, now I got to learn all the numbers and all this stuff. It's like, I got to speak the language. I have to understand it, but I don't need to be as obsessed at these numbers as you do, right? And it's like, oh, this is the power of truly understanding your skill sets and then working with other experts and helping each other stay in their lanes. So those are my 2 quick fire rounds. I have one that I want to close this out on, but anything to mention on those 2?
No, there's always I have one takeaway that kind of goes hand in hand with what you're just saying is I had some conversations around partnerships with our legends, right? Because some of them have like some of them are married to each other, like, and some
Yeah,
of
yeah.
them, you know, have a few of them had partners, and exactly what you were saying is what makes a good partnership, right? And it's like having the same goals and the same ambition, but different skill sets and even like different personalities. You
Oh
know, I
yeah.
think that really helps. So that's a takeaway that I had as well. That's kind of related to
100%.
what you're talking about.
100%, man. Um, and guys, if you guys want more on this stuff, just email us and we'll either go deeper into the podcast or we'll put it in some emails and get that out there. The last thing I want to close this out on that I think is going to be the most valuable for everybody listening that are truly, you know, truly in a position to grow their company and they want to grow their company regardless of their stage. And this is, you know, I'm stealing this from Tony Robbins. He used to say this. I remember when we first started doing Legends, I went to Business Mastery in Amsterdam right before Puerto Rico, and he's up on stage. This was 3 years ago, right? Yeah, 3 years ago. He's up on stage saying, "Winter is coming. Winter is coming. Get ready. Winter is coming." And I'm there. I'm like, what does this mean? Like, I don't get it. Like, we're in the best economy ever. We're making money. Everyone's making money. There's no signs for a down economy or anything like that. And now I understand it, you know, and I think everyone understands it. You know, you see what's happening at the gas pumps, you see what's happening with inflation, you see what's happening with the crypto industry, the stock industry, like just everything. You know, real estate prices for the first time ever are starting to go, I shouldn't say ever, first time in a long time are going down. The first time properties like are not getting multiple cash offers above asking. Like we're seeing the tides change. And my last takeaway that I want to close this out on is winter is coming. And there's two things there, right? One is prepping your company for hard times, right? So not doing that. And by the way, I want to preference this with, we're not doing this with a scarcity energy or mindset. We're not approaching this out of fear. We're not approaching this out of anxiety. We're not approaching this out of, out of anything other than being prepared for what's coming, right? And I'm not trying to be a doomsday. I'm just being realistic of like, hey, our markets are changing. Was it AirDNA that just came out that occupancy has dropped 8%?
Mm-hmm.
Is that AirDNA?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Occupancy here in the States have dropped 8%. So you're just seeing it across the board. Everything is dropping and slowing and all of that. Big conversation that we had was like, hey, what is going to happen to the market? And of course, if you ask that to any, 10 people, you're going to have 10 different responses of what's happening. And of course, the room was saying, everyone had their vision of like, it's either we're going to see, things are going to be worse than 2008 or, we're just going to see a small little dip, but nowhere near 2008. But across the board, everyone agrees that the market in general, we're going to see a disruption. How big or small that is, no one freaking knows until we get into it. So my two takeaways from this is, one is the title is Winter is Coming. Two things. One is prep your company for hard times. Start cutting back on unnecessary expenses. Start really understanding where your most profit is coming from. Trim the fat on everything and be in a position for the second spot is position yourself to take massive action and grow. You want to be able to grow as others are shrinking, right? They talk about it all the time. The most wealth is created in recessions and depressions, right? So when most people are unaware and they position themselves to fail, and tough times puts them in a spot where they're over leveraged, they're not paying attention, and before they know it, the game has ended for them, right? Where other people see the writing on the wall and they position themselves with their company, with their knowledge, with their money, with OPM, other people's money, to take action and grow in those downtimes, right? So those are my biggest takeaways of like, winter is coming, like the blizzard has just started. We're starting to feel it. We're starting to see it. We have no idea when the whole storm is going to hit us. But when it does, we want to be prepared for those hard times. And that means trimming the fat. And then number 2 is position yourself to take massive action and grow when others are shrinking. So
Yeah.
I wanted to state that because I know everyone knows it, but just know like the biggest companies in our industry know that as well. And they're not approaching it out of fear. They're approaching it as, hey, I can't control this. What I can control, I'm going to make decisions on. And then I'm also going to position myself to take massive action on acquiring property and acquiring other businesses. And through that's how we develop wealth. Right. So that's where my mindset is going. That's where we're going to be over the next 2 years, is focus on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And a couple things to add to that is number 1 is like exactly what you're saying. Like nobody can predict the future. Right. So we don't know what's going to happen, but it's good to be prepared for certain scenarios. Right. So it's a good idea to look at your portfolio and say like, hey, what if occupancy goes down by like 20-30%? Like, am I in trouble or not? Right. What if you're an investor, like what if real estate prices go down like 20-30%? Do I have mortgages, that can I still pay my mortgages? Like, is our houses underwater? Like, things like that. It's just smart to look at that. But then as you said, like, don't panic, right? Like focus on your core business and know that I believe that even though we're going to go through really great times and, difficult times, at the end of the day, I think the short-term rental industry in the next like 5 to 10 years is going to boom as an industry.
Yeah.
Right. So we're in a great industry. Even though I know there's ups and downs, but the industry keeps growing. So like the trend is our friend. So yeah, we're it's good to be aware of it. It's definitely good to be aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about a couple funny things before we wrap up this podcast.
All right.
So we got to talk about Larry. We got to talk about Larry, Eric.
Larry. Let's do it, man. You made a friend this weekend.
So
what is that thing called, by the way?
I looked it up.
Okay.
So let me do the introduction and I'll give the background, and then you can share your midnight experience. All right. So we get to this resort, this beautiful resort in Mexico, and it's literally surrounded by jungle, right? And we'll share pictures and stuff. But if you look at it, John had a drone, and was shooting pictures from above, and it's literally like it's just surrounded by jungle, right? And with jungle come animals, right? And what we didn't know, we thought we rented out the entire resort, but we didn't realize there was one guest that was residing in our villa that we didn't know that guest was there, right? His name is Larry, and he's a Mexican raccoon. That's his nickname, but it's the official name is I'm lost it now. Ocati or something. Coati, South American coati. And apparently he's the white nose coati. That's what it's called. But it's essentially it's a type of raccoon, and his name is Larry. And he basically
just to give some clarity, we named it Larry because we became friends with it.
I thought that was his name.
Anyway, we named him Larry because he became like, part of the event. Like every time we turned around, he's like there hanging out with us.
Yeah. He's hanging out in the resort because we at some point we saw him so many times that we were like, this animal, they must know about this. So we talked to the staff, and they said that he was kind of how does he say that? He was like he used to be in a group of coatis, and they kicked him out of the group. Right, the group turned against him, and they bit him, and he had a scar and everything. So he escaped into the resort, and he basically wouldn't leave the resort. So this animal walks around, and he's a friendly character. So it's all good. But then what happened one night?
Oh yeah. And give some context on this too. Like, this is an ugly looking animal. I mean, it looks like a mix of like a Chihuahua mixed with a raccoon mixed with a wolf. right? But it's tiny. It's like, you know, it's the size of a lap dog, but the tail is probably about 5 feet long. And yeah, it's a gnarly looking little animal, but it's a sweetheart. It's more scared of us than we are of it. But you won't be able to tell that when you see it. Yeah, man. Yeah, I didn't know I was telling the world about this story because it's kind of embarrassing. But yeah, I mean, I think this was the second day of the event, second morning of the event. Right around there. So in the mornings I was running a workout circuit at 7 a.m. before the event kicks off. So I got up at 6 to do my morning routine and all of that before I led the workout. And 6 o'clock in the morning down there is pitch black. We're in the jungle and there's bugs everywhere, all this stuff. I'm on the third floor of this building, and I open up the door. It's pitch black. I literally just rolled out of bed. There's bugs everywhere. I'm in a foreign land. I have no idea what's happening. We're only there for a couple of days. And as I leave my room heading down the stairs, I hear an animal to the left making this like growling, like animal noise. And again, I'm still kind of groggy from sleeping. And I look up and I just see these two eyes just staring at me. And I didn't know I can scream this loud, man. I started, and I'm like, I do all this like training and like martial arts training and personal protection training and all this stuff with the idea of like, if I'm ever in a position, I'll know how to protect myself. And man, I literally screamed like a little boy and ran down the stairs. But this animal, I must have scared the hell out of it because this thing jumped off of the landing and I thought it was jumping towards me. And that's why I kept running down the stairs, but it landed next to me and it must've been as scared as me. And it was screaming on top of its lungs. And we were literally side by side running down, staring at each other, screaming on the top of our lungs, all the way down to the bottom of the landing. And then as soon as the thing opened up, like the room opened up, it went left, I went right. I thought I was like going to get killed, like all this stuff. And once I was able to see some light, and I noticed it was Larry, like tiny little Larry. But I was freaking terrified, man, because I thought it was like a wolf or something. And by the time, I'm able to see the light, it's little furry ball Larry. So I thought I experienced that. By myself, and I wasn't going to tell anybody for the rest of my life about that experience because it was pretty freaking embarrassing. And I turned right, and John, our head of media, is in the bathroom staring at me. He's like, "What the hell just happened, man?" And I just had to tell him the story. So that story got around quite a bit. Now it's on the freaking podcast. So luckily we didn't catch it on camera. It was pretty terrifying.
But, dude, I remember waking up and I heard something. I wasn't sure what it was. And then later,
I was making a lot of freaking noise.
I was like, it was you.
Yeah, dude. I was screaming. I had my flip flops, and dude, it's so funny, man. Like when you're in a position of like fight or flight, like when you get scared like that and you can't see anything, and like my mind just went to like, a wolf or like a cougar or like a mountain lion, like something that was going to kill me. And my response to that was to scream and run down the stairs. And this thing was right next to me the entire time. And as soon as we get down into some light, it's freaking Larry. Yeah. So
it's so funny because you were on the top floor. So later during the event, I actually went up there and Larry was there because there was some like, he had a little, that's his home. That's where he sleeps.
Yeah. We became friends, man. Yeah. We're good now. Like every night I waved to Larry. He was right next to my door every morning. I came out and I'm like, "Hey, Larry." And he was just chilling. And we just had to have that experience together and make sure that we were going to kill each other. And once we realized that we're both like terrified of each other, we became friends. So it was all good.
Oh, good. I kind of miss him, to tell you the truth.
Hey, bro. We'll post up some photos of Larry.
I have a lot of videos of him. So I actually have a video of me walking up to where he sleeps and him like checking me out. And then at some point he just suddenly, boom, he jumps off and he runs down the stairs. I have a video of that. So we'll share all this stuff later. Awesome, man. Well, let's wrap this up. Yeah, this was an awesome event. I hope everybody who's listening learned something from what we're sharing. And as Eric said, we'll share more videos and stuff on our Overnight Success YouTube channel in the next couple of weeks.
That's right, y'all. Thank you for making me share that embarrassing story with everybody. And yeah, I hope everyone found this valuable. Any one of these that you guys want to learn more about, or you want us to talk on more of, either drop a comment. By the way, if you guys can continue to leave some reviews and share this podcast, truly appreciate that. So if you found this valuable, you're not a subscriber yet, please subscribe. And if you did find it valuable, go ahead and leave another, review. Those are super, super, helpful for us to grow this podcast. But yeah, if you want us to go deeper into any one of these, either email us or just drop a review. We'll read those and we'll structure some podcasts around that. So until next time, y'all, keep grinding, keep growing. And Jasper, we'll chat soon.
Thanks for listening, everyone. And Monday, we'll be back with another episode of Get Paid for Your Pet. Have a great weekend.